Okay, I'm gonna hand off my camera here to my assistant, Vanna. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I was dreaming. This is Dave. And so what we're gonna do is look at this situation where you have an angled piece of sheetrock on a wall and how you place your sheetrock pieces together. So one thing you want to do is remember that you've got two planes coming together here. And so you have a wide gap here, but you want that wide gap because you don't want this plane extending out into that, and you don't want this plane extending out into this plane. And so you want to have the wide gap here so that they're not overlapping as they come to the center here. And so this, you can fill that with some mud or mud and tape. The tape that I like to use, it's a plastic tape about 2 inches on either side, and that does a real good job of filling. I don't like using the paper tape here because it's just too flimsy and hard to position. And then the other way is to just get some metal tape, metal corner, and you can. We got a piece of scrap here
in the garbage.
In the garbage. Okay. So we have a piece of scrap here. So if you look at the top of this, come on over and point downward. So you can see how the regular piece doesn't work there. So you grab it and you can start to bend it to fit a 45. So we've opened it up and now you see it will work on that angle. So that is how you would put a metal corner over this, and then get some sheetrock nails and nail it in place. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is how do you measure a piece of sheetrock and get accurate positioning on your cutouts for electrical and windows and other stuff. Okay, you always measure from one end. So you pick a side and you always measure from the same side out to where you're cutting. So you would cut this one here at 3 and 5, and then you would cut this next one at 38.5 and 42 3/4. And you wouldn't want to do, what a lot of people will do is they will measure that, and then they will bring the tape here and measure the next. And you always want to measure from one originating point, because if you start going from, you measure this and then you measure from that to the next, every time you do that you throw in error. And so if you have this and that, okay, you put in maybe a 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch of error, and then if you've got another box here and you measure from here to the next box, okay, now you're up to 3/8 of an inch of error if you continue down the line cutting out from box to box like that. So that's just one thing to remember, is always measure from one point to each consecutive cutout. And the other thing you want to do too is check for level on the floor and square on the wall, because you can also install a piece that is going to be out of plumb, not level, not vertical, depending on the situation. So you always want to make sure that this sheet here went up against a plumb wall. But if there was a little bit of slope, like there's many remodels that have 1.5 inches of slope between the bottom and the top, so you have to cut out an angle piece there. So you want to do your angle piece first and then measure across. And you also want to make sure that you're measuring at this point here where the boxes are, and not, if you measure that point, you can't get the same measurement from up here down here, because your tape is going to be, your piece will be tapered, so a measurement from up there is not going to be the same measurement from down here, and you can end up with a box that's an inch or 2 inches away from where you thought it was going to be. So it's just these little things that pop up that you don't realize until after you've done it. This drawing is to help illustrate how to measure and cut a sheet of wallboard and the issues that will arise with plumb and level, horizontal, vertical. So hopefully this will help. You can pause and read the annotations. So, okay, well that's going to be enough how-to sheetrock for this video, and we'll do mudding here next.
Got one down for you?
Oh, in a minute.
Because I think
What was it?
91 3/4 is a better measurement.
91 3/4. Okay, so we are going to take our metal corners and we're going to bend them to fit that angled wall. And because they're metal corners, we don't really need to back them with mud in the voids in the corners. So it's 91 7/8.
Yeah, the 91 7/8 fits here.
Okay. So we will cut it at 91 7/8. Get the first cut going and cut it the rest of the way. And then, because it's a 45-degree angle and these are 90 degrees, we're just going to open them up a little bit down the length to fit into that corner. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll get perfection as we nail them in place. Just got to kind of open it up a little bit to get to the angle you need to press against the wall there. Doesn't have to be perfect, just close. Okay. Now let's go over to the wall and see what we get. Okay, so let's just make a quick test fit. Okay, and that is just about right. Okay, let me grab some sheetrock nails. So here's what you're looking for when you're doing the mudding is you've got your corner on and you want to, where's the nail here? You want to make sure that you are
Low.
the nail and the corner are low when you hold a straight edge to it. And so we have it on this side here too. So that way you know that when you mud the wall, your corner will be covered in mud. So we're going to continue nailing this on down and do the next piece too, and then we'll show you how everything comes together.
80 3/4.
Okay, so we've got our 2 sheet metal corners up here. And you can see that we have gap all the way down. And we have gap here. So we know that the mud will cover. And that is what it looks like. So when you do that, you just want to try and get it centered and plumb along the joint line. And then as you're nailing, you want to check frequently, make sure that it's not shifting on you and twisting off into another direction. So just keep your eye on how the progression of nailing goes and everything will look fine. Okay, so we are going to move on to a couple more pieces of sheetrock to install, a couple of more metal corners, and then we'll show you how to mud and tape. Alright, we are making some pretty good progress. You can see the walls are speed mud taped in, and we've got the ceilings are mostly done. And so we still have to come along and do some of the walls along this side here. You can see the cold conditions we're dealing with. Heater is on and trying to get the place warmed up here. But it is very pretty outside. You know, look at the hills over here in the distance. So it is a nice place to be working if you have to work. So, all right. Got the header for the windows all mudded in, and the whole bay window is mudded in now. And you can already feel the house warmer with so much wall space covered and sealed back up. There is the river down below. Okay. All right, well, let's get back to mudding. I don't know what those little blips are.